Thanks. Oh, that's so nice. Hi, CMX friends. So, how's the energy? How are you guys feeling? Okay, all right, it's 4 in the afternoon. Okay, well, my name is Laura, and I have had a community in my job title for the last 15 years. The verbs around it have changed. It's been marketing, management, growth, development, but the vagueness has remained the same. That blank stare that I get when I tell people I work in community, and it's clear they have absolutely no idea what I do. Case in point, 2007, I had reached the dating milestone with my boyfriend, now husband, to be included in his family's annual Christmas letter. We received it and it said, son Jonathan recently graduated from law school, and girlfriend Laura continues to find success as the head of marketing for the internet. You're all welcome, by the way. But the truth is, in the last year or so, I've never seen community more front and center than it is today. Everywhere you click, it's being used to galvanize, to win hearts and minds, to make people feel like they belong and they found their people in their corner of the internet. To say, we are the product or the service or the brand for you because look, we share your very same niche set of interests. And why is this rallying cry so popular right now? It's because in a search for authenticity, consumers are seeking micro communities, or small groups of people that share a niche set of interests, traits, or ethos. The customer relationship with large social media platforms is evolving. And if they aren't moving off of the platform completely, they are doing everything they can to reduce the noise and distraction of the main social feed in favor of these micro communities. So let me put this another way. All of your customers, your clients, your users are seeking authenticity. They are looking for brands where they can laser in on their very niche set of actions and interests. So what's a brand to do? Double down, of course. Airbnb CEO Brian Chesky recently has been publicizing his commitment to keep community at the center of what they do. He even changed his title to CEO and head of community, in his words, to be held more accountable. And never to be outdone, Facebook recently changed their mission statement from make the world more open and connected to build community and bring people closer together. Now, while all of this tracks and will help you understand why you're seeing the word community everywhere right now, it doesn't do much to deliver the promise of my talk today, which is to demystify community and help you understand that it's not just a fuzzy buzzword. Because at the end of the day, community is still all about feelings, and feelings aren't measurable, right? My experience actually tells a different story. So what I hope to leave you with today is a really deep understanding of the impact that a community-driven growth model can make and how they work in terms of tactics and in terms of motivation. So, before I was Laura at Duolingo, I was Laura at Yelp. This photo was taken from an actual camera. This photo was taken before iPhones existed. This actually is way back when I was heading up marketing for the internet. But what I actually did at Yelp was help refine the original community playbook and then move abroad to help expand Yelp market by market internationally. What we learned at Yelp was that we could win by focusing all of our energy on a very small group of fanatic reviewers. We thought about this like a bullseye. We spent very little, if any, energy on people in the outer rings, people that were reading reviews or people that were subscribed to our newsletter, and we lasered in on the people in the very center because they were delivering the most value. Now, community professionals will know this as the 1-9-90 model, or the idea that a very small group of consumers or creators can create content that is then consumed by the masses. Interestingly enough, this is the reversal of a traditional marketing funnel. And so if you're thinking in marketing terms, they're addressing the total addressable market, community is the exact reverse. But the only way this strategy works is if you identify and deploy the right motivations for the people at the very top of the pyramid. These are generally, to invoke Dan Pink, a blend of extrinsic motivators, carrots and sticks, leaderboards, swag, and intrinsic motivators like autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Now, Yelp structured the site to motivate people through praise and attention that their reviews received. They thought about bragging rights in front of what we designed to feel like a very exclusive micro-community. And then we doubled down by having these micro-communities meet together offline as well, which then only strengthened their desire to get back online and to brag in front of all their new friends and prove their worthiness. Was this strategy based on feelings? Yes. Did this strategy impact core business objectives? Well, you tell me. A group of tens of thousands of reviewers create reviews that are now consumed by hundreds of millions every single month. This is how a community growth engine works. Let me give you another example. In Dan Pink's talk about the puzzle of motivation, he gives you this question. He says, let's pretend that you want to start an online encyclopedia. We're going to decide which model to use. Model 1. We're going to give significant funding and resources. We're going to hire paid experts in their field that are curating the most high caliber content. We're going to market it by one of the largest tech companies of its day. You are getting money, you are getting experts. Or Model B. Let's just have an open collaboration project. Let's not pay anybody anything. Let's not invite any experts to participate. Let's just have people contribute stuff that they think they know about and trust that the rest of the market will self-regulate itself. As Dan Pink says, there is not a single sober economist in the world that would have bet on Model B. And yet this is exactly how Wikipedia beat Encarta. A micro-community of intrinsically motivated people, 200,000 of them, created 48 million pages of content that is now consumed by 500 million individual people every single month. This is going from a fuzzy buzzword to a quantifiable business objective. So, the reason you are hearing about community everywhere right now is because executives at the highest level understand that community strategies drive growth. They are betting their job titles and their mission statements on it, and they wouldn't do it otherwise. And yet, so many industry professionals that I talk to still struggle to identify where community should be positioned within their organization. They put it as a sub-function of another category or function where it can't make as much of an impact. Or they don't give it the resources because they really don't know how to identify the value. This is a giant mistake. In order to extract the most value out of your community model, it must be positioned as a high-level business strategy impacting business-wide goals. Now, let me be clear. This is your job. If you aren't able to clearly articulate a community that you work on every single day, the value of this community, how can we expect executive leaders in your organization to owe you this understanding? Yelp was able to do this. Wikipedia was able to do this. Let me show you how we're doing this at Duolingo. For those who don't know, Duolingo is the world's most popular way to learn a language. We have 300 million users, and all of our language content is completely free. When we started in 2012, we had 4 courses that were all designed by an in-house team of language experts. Today, we offer 91 courses in 37 languages, with 14 courses currently in development. So how did we achieve this scale? By opening up our tools and our knowledge to the community. So today we have a fully fleshed out community infrastructure. We have a cross-functional team that's dedicated to this success. But not back then. Back then, we had a landing page that collected application forms. We hacked together a way to grant access to our internal tools, which were far from user-friendly, which then required a lot of hand-holding in terms of very high-touch community management. That would never scale. We built only what we needed to validate whether or not it would work or not, with the idea that if we are solving for a real problem, this is all we would need. And it was. Once we saw an initial proof of concept, we started establishing a rigorous set of community systems and structures to ensure quality at scale. We built community feedback tools and gave ownership to all of those teams so that they could quickly address user reports And every course would be dynamic and continually improving. We also gave them the autonomy to continually add new skills, and even if they wanted, build a brand new course within the framework of our learning methodology and A/B test that course against the first course to see if it would lead to better learning outcomes. Now, this system also empowered the wider community to participate and join the ecosystem. So now when a learner has a question or they want to understand a pronunciation, they can ask the community and instantly receive an answer, which effectively means that every learner on Duolingo has the power of the world's largest language community one tap away. So if you're not doing this already, think with your business. Where are you connecting people to better your product and to support one another? And a quick aside on value. Please, when you're reporting value, stop reporting it in terms of clicks and likes and engagement and conversations and interactions. You can measure those. But when you report your value, report the actual value that you're creating. What's the increased user retention from someone who participates in your community? How much more money does someone spend in your community or on your product than someone who doesn't participate? Or how much money are you saving your company? As an industry, we need to become disciplined about articulating the impact that we are making, not the actions that we are taking. Another value add of our community model is that we're able to address projects that we wouldn't otherwise be able to. For example, our mission is to bring free language education to the world. And so it makes sense to optimize for the world's largest and most spoken languages to do the biggest impact on that mission. But with our community model, we don't need to make that decision. We can simultaneously go for the big fish while we're also working with small indigenous and endangered language communities like Navajo, Hawaiian, Welsh, and Irish. Here are some of those teams. And in the top corner here, that is the president of Ireland. He is honoring the Irish course team for their efforts in preserving language because this is true. There are more people learning Irish on Duolingo than there are native speakers in the world. So we could never have addressed these we couldn't have put the time or the resources toward them without our community model. Where are you only going for big fish? What mission-driven, purpose-aligned opportunities are you deprioritizing today that you could really inspire your community to help with? So up to this point, we've covered Duolingo's growth model through the 1990, right? We empower contributors, we encourage the wider community to participate. That process has enabled 300 million people to have access to free language education. But why stop there? About 2 years ago, we thought, maybe it makes sense to experiment with offline events. The thinking being that A, language is inherently social. B, people are probably learning the language to speak it. And C, they've spent all this time and investment in our product. Wouldn't it be nice to expand their learning ecosystem and include offline events in that opportunity? We decided to apply the same community playbook that we did with course creation, which if you haven't picked it up already, it's validate an early concept, test things that aren't scalable, and then systematize. You can actually see the strategy play out in the numbers. So here's the first 6 months. We got to about 100 events a month. Here's the first year. We had gotten to about 600 events a month. We really figured out what we were doing in year 2. We got to almost 2,500 events a month. And in fact, today we measure events by week. We are consistently seeing almost 600 events a week in 113 countries, 820 cities, and in 34 languages. That's nice. And here's the thing, this is what they actually look like, right? Community executives need to understand that a large part of their job is just to remind the organization about the actual people that their product is impacting. People love that chart, but this is the people that is actually touching every single day. Whenever I show that chart, everyone asks why. How did you do that? First they ask why, then they ask how, right? But you already know. You need to hold your community programming to the same rigorous set of standards as any other product. You need to validate early. You need to cheaply prove your concept. Then you need to systematize. You must earn your resources, not defend them. Trust me. So here are some actual tactics that I took. The first one, Low-tech, high-effort is all about learning the pain points. This is true. I emailed between, probably about 500 people in the Seattle area, which is where I live. Hey, I'm Laura from Duolingo. I have this idea. I'm learning Spanish, you're learning Spanish. How about we get together at Starbucks and practice Spanish together? I went to every single first event. I stayed afterwards and talked to every single person so that I could learn the pain point of what a community person in my ecosystem would be going through themselves. For example, it's really challenging to learn a language in a loud venue. I didn't know that. Now I do. The second one is you need to test things that don't scale. So this is where you're considering everything as an experiment. You're just getting it out there and validating. You're not worried about scaling. I must have tried 20 different formats and structures and times. I must have invited different types of people. I made relationships with restaurants. I tried partnering with WeWork. I went to libraries. I really just wanted to figure out what would work at this point. I wasn't worried about scaling. And then build only what you need. Things are always changing. So my analogy here is just think about getting your airplane off the ground. Don't worry about your in-flight entertainment options, right? All you need in the beginning is a clean landing page and hacking things together to make it work. If you're solving a real problem, that is all you need. Another thing in this stage is to only worry about the next order of magnitude. When I was at one event, I thought about how to get to 10. At 10, I thought about how to get to 100. I wasn't optimizing for levels that were 2 or 3 steps beyond, because again, the worst case scenario is that you get resources that you're not quite ready for, and you aren't able to immediately show their impact. Those resources will go to another team. But here's the secret behind all of this, right? The growth engine behind events was not savvy product management or gamified reward systems. The growth engine, the thing that got event off the ground, was intrinsically motivating humans who were seeking authentic niche micro-communities. Because behind every single event is one of these. It's a dedicated host volunteering their time. With a community-driven model, the hardest question that all y'all are gonna answer is not how to best optimize your product for these people at the very bottom and how to get growth from them. No, it's how to tap into the intrinsic motivations that get Lei in Nigeria and Esquivar in Venezuela to participate and engage week after week. Now, I could nerd out right now about all of the behavioral economists that I'm obsessed with, but since we're on a Dan Pink train, I'm gonna stay on it. And what you need to know here is that to fuel community growth, you must evoke the right intrinsic motivations. So autonomy, the desire to direct your own life. With our event hosts, we let them choose when, where, what language. They have access to all of our tools and resources, but we don't try and micromanage what they're doing, right? The event needs to fit into their life in a way that they want to do it. Mastery, which is the desire to get better at something that matters. We provide ways to connect all of our hosts together so that they can form their own community. Not only can they embed the event program themselves, but every single event, they're watching their attendees come and get better at language. And purpose, to serve something bigger than ourselves. I'm just gonna read this. This is from an event host. He says, words. We just hosted our 30th Duolingo event since last November. Our little group has inspired the local theater to start showing movies in Spanish, as well as a local organization to host the town's first ever Dia de los Muertos celebration. Amazing things happening in Emporia, Kansas, thanks to the power of language learning. Now look at the lens, use this as the lens of how you look at our course contributors, right? They had the autonomy to craft their own courses. They had the mastery to constantly make them better, even A/B test them if they wanted. And they had purpose to be able to deliver courses that Duolingo would not have otherwise been able to. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose is the core of intrinsic motivation, and intrinsic motivation is the core of the community growth engine. Use this as your framework. I'm gonna finish with a story about purpose. Every year, we get thousands of letters and emails about why learning a language matters to the people that we're impacting. But one stood out recently. It was from an event host, Kagri. He hosts events in Turkish in Istanbul. And he reached out and said, I just had the most incredible experience tonight. I have to tell you about it. We had attendees from Syria and Iraq, and they told us that they had come to Istanbul to find peace, and they had come to my event to learn the language of their new home. Now, this is obviously the purpose that drives what Kagri does every single week. But this is also the purpose that drives what we do at Duolingo. We were so inspired that we decided to actually just send a photojournalist to learn more. Watch this.
When you learn a language, you are not talking to a book, you are talking to people, like flesh and blood. World around you. For my kids, it's education.
You can survive with languages.
I must learn Turkish.
I am 15 years old from Syria and Damascus.
You can't imagine it. It's like, oh.
We really didn't know what we would find when we decided to go on this journey.
Welcome home.
Oops. Oh, psych, not the end. Community for Duolingo is not just a fuzzy buzzword. It is the mega highway that powers what we do, why we do it, and who we do it for. The reason you're hearing the word community every day right now is because executives at the highest level understand how it's impacting their bottom line. And harnessing the power of community not only fuels growth, it advances authenticity. People interact with brands on a human level. They seek to identify with brands that can speak to their own ethos, brands that make us feel something in a world that is constantly inundated with numbers and metrics and analytics. I can give you one word of advice, is to embrace that duality of the qualitative and the quantitative, knowing that this is the intersection where community can make the most impact, both measurable and immeasurable. I'll leave you with these 4 things. Your users are seeking authentic niche communities. What is your niche? What is your micro community? What can they address that you are currently deprioritizing? How can you empower them to help one another and help improve your product? And where are you evoking autonomy, mastery, and purpose so that they can be motivated? Now I'm done. Thank you so much. Come talk to me afterwards. I would love to nerd out over behavioral economists, and also I'm hiring, so I'll try and poach all y'all. Thanks, guys.